Call the meeting to order. Everybody, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Jorgensen, if you'd lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And at this time, we'd like to have, who do we have scheduled for the invocation?
Terry Wright.
Terry Wright.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah. Pray with me, if you will. Well, Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together in a free country, in a free land. Thank you, Lord, for the responsibility to govern this district. Lord, we thank you for each and every administrator, teacher, and student that you've entrusted under our care. Father, thank you again for the opportunity to be together. Guard and guide us. Give us wisdom. We ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. If you are here and want to speak during the meeting, we have public speaking forms. You can see Miss Douglas over there, and she can get you one. We have several already. So please, if you desire to speak, get you a form filled out. First, we have presentations. Secondary Director, Ms. Tanya Whitehurst, and FLDOE Region 2 Executive Director and Differentiated Accountability, Wayne Green, with information on the graduation initiative.
I'll let you get your handouts. Mr. Green, did you want to come up and say anything to start us out before I do the presentation? Yeah. Yes, I would.
So good afternoon, Board, Board Chair, Superintendent. On behalf of the Region 2 team and Department of Education, I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to collaborate with you on this very, very important initiative. As you know, over the last few years, the graduation rate in Putnam County has declined. In an effort to improve, we approached the superintendent as well as the leadership team about collaborating with the University of South Florida, Dr. Amber Brundage, who has done some very powerful research in the area of graduation rates here in the state of Florida, early warning systems that help increase graduation rates. And so we partnered with her and our team and some of our experiences with some districts that have had success. And we feel very strongly that the plan that's going to be presented to you today is a very comprehensive plan that will help put us on a path to increasing the graduation rate in Putnam, putting it back in a very healthy place where that I know that it was not so long ago. It was in after some rough years and some changes in administration and other things. I know that we had some declines, but I'm very excited about the plan we have now. I'm looking forward to the implementation. I think it's really important that we understand that the resources are going to be needed for this plan to work, but it is certainly a very comprehensive plan that will allow us to intervene with students who are off path and not necessarily prepared to graduate with their cohort. Well, we will not wait until their senior year. We will not wait until they have failed courses. We will catch them prior to that, intervene, and make sure that they graduate with their cohort, which is the most important thing that we do in K-12 education, is making sure kids walk across the stage and receive a diploma, a regular diploma. So I'll be here to answer any questions you might have for me. And again, I thank you for allowing us to collaborate. It was not our intent to just work with you on the plan. It is our intent to be with you as you implement the plan. We will be part of that implementation and supporting that implementation, advising when asked, and making recommendations where asked. But it is our expectation that we will increase the graduation rate and we will have more students walking across the stage. So again, thank you. And I'll be here, and when Tanya needs me, I'll jump in.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Okay, so I have handed you a couple of documents that if you'll just kind of set those to the side, we'll talk about those in just a couple of minutes. I want to go through just some research and then some of our own Putnam data, just to give you an idea of why what we are looking at doing is so crucial, and it's really urgent that we put this into place as soon as possible. So if we look at our current graduation data, and I know that's really hard to see, and I'm just going to focus on 2014-15. We do not have the 15-16 data as of yet, but for 14-15, we had 55% of our students graduated. That's graduated on time with their cohort. And a lot of times we look at percentages and it doesn't really mean anything to us. So I really took it down to numbers, and that's what I want to share with you, because I want us to realize that these percentages are representing students. And when we look at that, in 2014-15, we had 674 seniors who were in that cohort who had started their freshman year 4 years prior. So if we had 55% of that, that means that there were 370 of them that had graduated. That also means that we had 38 that received a special diploma, 49 certificate of completions. A certificate of completion means that they had all of their credits, but it was a matter of a test score or a GPA. They did not earn a standard diploma, so we give them a certificate of completion. We're 123 of those 674 students who are still enrolled. That means that it's taking them longer than 4 years. Hopefully, a majority of those got their diploma this year, but they didn't. Yeah, fifth-year seniors, but they didn't graduate on time. But the last thing I want to point out is that that's 94 dropouts. And when we start talking about students, how are we going to say, well, it's okay for this one to drop out, and it's okay for this one to drop out. Oh, we're going to make sure this one graduates. We have to really look at every single student that we have. So we want to start looking at early warning indicators, and what I'm showing you here is early warning indicators for middle and high, and this is based on very large-scale research, and I will send this PowerPoint to Pam, and she can send it out to all of you. The last two slides are just full of the readings and the research that you can look at for yourself. For middle school, you're looking at, these are just indicators that show us that when students start showing these indicators, then that's giving us an idea that they're getting off track for graduation. Course failure in English or math. Discipline, so they have some discipline issues. Missing 10% or more instructional days, GPA less than 2.0, and a level 1 on their assessments. For high school, course failures. It does not matter what course it is, it's a course failure, because in high school they have to have 24 credits. And it's not just about course failures. If they do not if they do not make a C, that class that they get a D in really does not do anything for them to graduate. Again, discipline, missing 10% or more instructional days, GPA less than 2.0, and credits of being more than 2 credits behind. So those are different indicators, and we've been looking at indicators for a long time. But we have to start realizing that we need a district system in place that does more than just identify indicators, that we start really putting interventions in place when we see students who have these indicators. Early intervention. We do not want to wait until high school to start looking at students. If you look at research, for a long time it was always about your 8th graders, your 9th graders. Now we have enough research to look at 6th graders when a 6th grader is off track. So they have failed English, math, their GPA is below a 2.0, they've missed school, any of those indicators, and they're off track. They have a 48% increased likelihood to not be on track by the end of 10th grade. If they're not on track by the end of 10th grade, they're not graduating on time. 8th grade, if they are off track at the end of 8th grade, it's a 95% increased likelihood. And then if they're off track at the end of 9th grade, it's a 312% increase in likelihood. So it's important that we start looking at this way before they get to 9th grade. There's also some research that has been done out of Massachusetts with some school districts that show that we can actually start looking at third grade. And students who are below grade level proficiency in reading in third grade, 50% of them have a likelihood of dropping out. So we can already start tracking that all the way back to third grade. So that's nationwide research and statistics. I want to show you where we are at as Putnam. Some of this does not look pretty, so I'm just giving you a heads up there, but it is our students. For third grade reading, I want to kind of summarize what that is showing you. If you look back at iReady, and we're looking at this with iReady because, again, we can't wait until the end of the year and just base it off of FSA results. So this iReady data is showing us that we can track them throughout the year. But if we just look at, based on 2015-16 FSA results in third grade, district-wide, 40% of our third graders were proficient or scored at a level 3 or above.
What year's that?
This year. This year. That's this year's students.
Do you have any data from 4 years ago?
Not right here, I don't. Not with our Putnam data. Okay. But if we look at that 30% or 40% are proficient, that means 60% of our third graders are not proficient. We roughly have 1,000 students in each grade level. So let's just say we have 1,000 third graders, and if we go back to that research, we're saying that 600 of them are not on track, are not proficient, and 50% of them have a likelihood of dropping out. We cannot wait until they are in high school. We have to start doing something now.
And are you strictly using the iReady score for that proficiency?
No, that was FSA proficiency that I just gave you.
The only reason-
The iReady data is going to help track throughout the year so that you're not waiting until you just get FSA data at the end of the year.
So you're saying that FSA, those are 1s and 2s, correct?
They're not
Yes.
proficient with a
Yes.
3.
Yes.
The only reason why I asked that is, several years ago, we had a pretty radical departure from third grade reading programs. And I was just interested to know, tracking our kids who started kindergarten on
The
that program.
cohorts. Right.
The kindergarten kids who started on that program and where they finished on that third grade. I was just interested to know what that data might be.
I don't have it right here,
Okay.
but we can get it.
Yeah, shoot it to me.
I know that it was prior to that we were receiving, we had letters from the governor complimenting the district on the percentage of gain we were making in reading in third grade. So, we've done this before, and I listened to Ms. Whitehurst, the superintendent, and Mr. Green before this meeting, and I think they've got a good plan. So,
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just
Okay,
curious.
that's
So-
okay. So I want to look at, because when you start getting into 6th grade and 9th grade, you start looking at course failures. And at the end of the first semester, and again, I'm looking at first semester data to show that we can't wait until the end of the year. This has to be something that we're doing all year long. At the end of the first semester, there were 118 Fs within 6th grade. That does, 6th grade, again, roughly 1,000 students. 9th grade, there were 1,125 Fs on report cards for 9th grade
At the
at the end of the first semester. If you start looking at what happened as a percentage, that tells us that at the end of the first semester for our 9th graders, 46% of them had an F. They had already lost a credit. So they were already off track, 46% of our 9th graders. Another issue that we have, chronic absenteeism, and this is just a state that shows you for 2014-15. The districts that are in blue, which Putnam falls in blue, has 15 to 20% of the students who have a chronic absenteeism problem. And chronic absenteeism is that they have missed more than 10% or more instructional days, 180 days, so you're looking at they've missed at least 18 days of school or more.
Okay, just so I get the correlation. It's roughly 20% of the kids who are not scoring at grade.
That's 20% total.
Total. So it's disconnected from performance.
Right, and we're going to talk, and we're
Okay.
going to look at that.
All right, that's fine.
So this gives you some actual Putnam County rates, breaking it down. 17.8% of our students have a chronic absenteeism problem in Putnam. The state average is 9.7%. If you look at that for elementary, 13% of our elementary students are missing 18 or more days of school. 19.2% of our middle school students are missing 18 or more days of school. 23.3% of our high school students are missing more than 18 or more days of school. But keep in mind, because I just want to have you keep this at the front of your mind, we have more students who are not performing in their courses than we have students who are not coming to school. Because I hear all the time, well, if the kids will just come to school, they can do the work. Well, our course performance, our failures in 9th grade is twice the amount of what our chronic absenteeism problem is. Okay, so,
And I'll bet you some of the kids, I'm not justifying their absences, some of those kids
It's-
probably perform well.
right, and some of them, I know that for a fact, some of them do, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm not justifying, I'm just, it's just.
All right, so just going back around, when we look at early warning indicators, we're looking at course performance, we're looking at attendance, we're looking at discipline, and we're looking at GPA and how they're doing on state assessments. So why do we need an early warning system? Because 9th grade is too late. Roughly 3 semesters before dropout eligibility. If we wait until 9th grade to ever even start looking at them and try to put interventions in place, it is too late. 50% of future non-graduates are readily identified at 6th grade. That means we have 9 semesters before they could drop out. So we have a lot more time if we start earlier to try to make sure that they are on track and they stay on track. The earlier a student first sends a signal, the greater the risk that he or she will drop out of school. So if we have students that are showing signals in 3rd grade, then that's a greater indicator that they're going to have a more likelihood of dropping out. So if and this whole plan is we're going to start tracking them at an earlier grade level. So,
Well, even with that, I mean, that's a good point. It is a systemic effort. It has to, you've got to patch up where we are and catch up with the kids, like with our foundation, where we're trying to bring all the pre-K kids in so they don't have some that are going to start 2 years behind and then never catch up. And we do know by 3rd grade who's going to make it and who's not.
Right. So the purpose of an early warning system, and that our graduation plan is really a part of an early warning system. It's really to identify at-risk students who are likely to experience adverse outcomes, and then start really identifying patterns and trends and figuring out what can we do to help them and put those interventions into place. A lot of times being an administrator for several years, we have been identifying students with indicators for a long time. We go through and we say, well, this student has this many days absent, and this student has this many referrals, and this student has this many failures. And we do that in isolation, and the whole purpose of us trying to put a system into place is that we no longer do that in isolation, but it's a district-wide approach, which means that we are all accountable for every student that is in this district. Every student from pre-K to 12th grade, when they walk across that stage, every one of us that is part of the school system is responsible for that student's success. And that's what this approach is really about, is everybody coming together. Yes, you can, anytime.
Excuse me. I wanted to go back and address something that I heard earlier, and the question was about whether or not some of the students that were not attending school were high-performing kids. I think the answer is obviously yes. There are some students that have chronic absenteeism that perform really well, but when you have an early warning system in place and you have people that are monitoring it, that is an issue that we have to also deal with. Our high-performing students don't necessarily reach their potential because they're not coming to school for a reason.
No argument.
What is that reason? And no, I bring it because that's going to be an offshoot of what we're going to have in place, is that we're going to be able to intervene with them also. It's not just about intervening with those kids that are not graduating with their cohort. It's about making sure that all of our kids reach their potential. Because a big concern of mine would be that if a kid's not coming to school and they're still performing well, will they reach their potential? Will they be the kid that goes off, gets the college scholarship, performs well, and comes back and contributes to this community? We miss out on kids like that a lot of times because we are just concentrating on one group or two groups or the groups that are not performing well. An offshoot of what we're doing is we will be able to intervene with all kids. So not just those kids that are not necessarily on track to graduate with their cohort, but also kids that are performing really well, but may have other issues that we can intervene using counseling and other things so that they do reach their potential. So I wanted to add that because I think that was a great question, and it's certainly accurate that many of those kids are high performing despite the fact that they're not coming, but we know a lot of them don't reach their potential.
A lot of them could be pregnant or young fathers trying to make ends meet or dropping out to help feed the family. So it takes somebody that goes in and knows their family situation and knows what their problems are to try to get them the help they need.
That's our role as educators, exactly.
So what is our graduation initiative? Our graduation initiative is that we know that we must improve graduation rates. We need an organized and district-wide early warning system, not just indicators, and we should have shared responsibility for improving student success. So how do we go about that? And this does align with our district strategic plan on reaching all students, making sure that they are successful. When they walk across that stage, it's not just about a piece of paper in their hand, but that they are truly ready to go on to post-secondary school, a career. We have prepared them for real world, okay? So our theory of action, as we have put this into place, if we develop and implement a district-wide early warning system, then we will be able to identify, support, and monitor students who are off track, thus improving the likelihood that students will stay in school and successfully graduate. If we identify them, we work with them, we can get them to walk across that stage. And that's what we want to do. We have 5 goals, and if you want to go ahead and look at your sheet, board members, that is the description of the graduation initiative. I'm going to be walking through some of that information. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I will get you through most of it so that you'll be able to read the rest of it for yourself. So we have 5 goals. Our first goal is to develop and implement a district-wide early warning system to identify, support, and monitor students who are off track and most likely to experience adverse outcomes. Just want to make a note about that goal 1. That is truly a district goal. So as we read through these, you're going to see that some of these goals are more district responsibility and some of them are more school responsibility. Goal 2, increase principal and school ownership of student success by providing district support for school-based problem solving and implementation of interventions. So goal 2, that's the collaboration between the school and the district, giving them support. Goal 3, enhance college and career readiness for students by increasing opportunities and improving academic pathways towards graduation. That is a school level goal. And when we talk about college and career readiness, we had a principals meeting and we were talking about this, and our elementary principals realized that it's not just the responsibility of the middle schools and the high schools to talk about college and career readiness. Students that are in elementary school should hear about what college is, so career days, just anything that's going to go ahead and get that mindset of I'm going to graduate one day and I'm going to make something of myself. Goal 4, provide schools with accurate, timely, and efficient access to early warning system indicator data. And then goal 5, improve district monitoring of early warning indicators, preventative measures, and intervention strategies. So what we have done, and I'm going to walk through some of this, for each one of these goals, we have already identified some strategies that we are going to be putting into place, and I will be sharing some of those strategies in just a few minutes. There's no way that we could share all of them. As you will see in your packet, each goal takes up a whole sheet with our strategies.
Ms. Whitehurst, can I ask you a
Yes.
question? Would you have more time and would the dialogue be more open in a workshop format? This is really good and this is really interesting. I'm just curious if,
I will do whatever y'all would like for me to do.
No, I'm not recommend, I'm just saying, I think it gives us a lot more latitude
Right.
to dig into this and because this is phenomenal.
Well, just
Well,
keep,
it's hard to
Let me-
tie this
let her keep
systemic
going.
thing together. I mean, I
Right.
think we need to let her keep going, and then.
Then if we
Okay.
need
Then
further
if we-
Thank
time,
you.
we can have.
If
one.
we
Okay.
all
Sure,
tie
sure,
it
sure.
together
Yeah, yeah,
from all factors,
I'm-
then we
I'm-
could have.
I'm not
Okay.
rushing you.
Okay, all right. So our graduation rate targets, that's going to be the next part of that plan. We know 14, 15, we had 55%. We do not have our 15, 16 data yet. We were hoping that we will be at least 60%. And so our targets for 16, 17 up through 2021 is based on if we can get to that 60% graduation rate this year. And as you see, when we look at this, this is a 5-year plan that we are trying to put into place. So we need the commitment that we will have the support to put this into place for 5 years, at least 5 years. So I want to kind of talk about the next part of your packet. You will see
Tanya, real quick,
That-
the data, if everybody's graduated, why would you not have that data?
the state has not released it yet.
So you couldn't look at 9th graders compared to 12th graders on Skyward and see how many graduated?
It takes, all of the information has not
You
even
can
been submitted
guess,
yet.
but they
So,
break it
You
down
can
in
guess,
different-
yeah.
there, we still have some students who are taking tests, and
Okay,
so,
so
yeah.
60 is maybe based upon that prediction?
Based on 55% last year, and knowing some of the things that we had already put into place for this year.
All right.
So how are we going to implement this? This is a big plan. We know that you can't implement everything at one time. So what we want to do is we want to have focused grade levels, or our pivotal years, which line up with research, 3rd grade, 6th grade, and then 9 through 12. That does not mean that we are not going to look at students in other grade levels, okay? All students will be tracked. However, at the school level, each school will have one specific grade level that this team for this first year will be truly working on and focusing on, so that we can make sure that the things that we put in place will have the sustainability that we need.
Tripwires.
Yes. So for year 1, elementary will be focusing on 3rd. Our middle schools, with the exception of Jenkins, will be focusing on 6th grade. Jenkins is going to focus on 8th. They do not have 6th grade there. And then all of our high schools will be focusing on 9 through 12. And then as you can look through that each year, year 2, we're going to go ahead and add kindergarten, because we understand that that's truly where it all starts, is right there in that foundation. But if you look at that, then it shows grade 3 and grade 4. But that grade 4 is the same group that we had already focused on in year 1. So our hope is that that group is smaller for year 2. And so then we'll add 7th grade, and that's that same group. So at this point, we can start following those cohorts and seeing what's happening within the cohorts. And by the end of that end of 5th year, we will be able to see some of those students that we started this with, what has happened with them for graduation, okay? Our focus indicators, we have 3: course performance, attendance, and discipline. In the first year, actually the first 2 years, our focus is course performance. That does not mean that we are not going to be looking at attendance or discipline, but our true focus and where we are going to be putting most of our time and our efforts are going to be around course performance. Couple of reasons there. First of all, course performance is truly, out of those 3, the only thing we have direct control of. Attendance, we have to have the parent involvement, and we know with discipline, there's other things that impacts that as well. We have control over course performance. And again, back to what I had asked you to keep at the front of your mind, 46% of our 9th graders had failed a class at the end of the first semester. Whereas, and I know this percentage is not good, that's not what we want, 23% had chronic, and that's school-wide, 9 through 12. So we have more students who have issues with course performance than we do with the other 2. That's why for the first 2 years, that's going to be our true focus. But again, as we start looking at course performance and we start digging deeper, we're going to see some of those root causes are going to be attendance and discipline. So we can still, in some sense, we're going to be looking at all of it. So what you have for the last part of your packet is each goal, and then it lists, sorry, skipped a page there. You have a goal, and then we have strategies that go with that. Each goal also has a key performance indicator. This 16-17 year will be the year that we to come up with our baseline data, because we haven't used any of these strategies, so we don't really have that baseline yet. We will be using the data from this year. So goal 1 is about developing and implementing that district-wide system. And then you see we have several strategies. I'm only going to touch on a couple of these today. We have provided you with all of the goals and all of the strategies. You also might notice that the word draft is written across your paper, because this is a living document. We know that there's going to be some things that we're like, oh, you know what, we didn't think about that, we need to add it. So this is not a finalized, we're never going to change this. It's going to change as we grow and we learn. The first strategy is the most important strategy. Without this strategy, this plan cannot happen, and it's to allocate funds and hire 3 graduation coach positions to support implementation of the district's early warning system. You have already approved the job description that I went ahead and gave you another copy of that job description. Ms. Buckles has, she is working on putting this into the Title I grant, so we are waiting on that. We do already have one person in place that is going to be a 12-month graduation coach and during the summer, and that's Miss Pam Brown. She is already working on getting some data together for all of our incoming seniors for all of our high schools right now until we can get the other 2 in place. We have to get approval for those positions. We can get it posted, get them hired, get them going. But without 3 graduation coaches, this plan truly will not, it's not going to work the way that it needs to work. We're going to be providing professional development. We're excited about some things we have going on with Price and Interlochen High School. Ms. Weaver was able to get a grant for us to help with tracking students with disabilities with a Check and Connect mentoring program out there. They're getting some training on that tomorrow. We are implementing in all of our high schools for our 9th graders, and this is one of the strategies that are listed here, a freshman transition course where they will be doing career surveys, writing resumes, just really figuring out who they are, as well as creating a 10-year plan. Years ago, they all used to have to do a 4-year plan, but it's more than just what happens up to 12th grade. They need to start thinking about 6 years after they graduate. So we're excited about that. That's kind of up and going. Just to kind of finalize, just want to kind of give you an idea of what the graduation coach would be doing. Our idea is that we would have a graduation coach for each area of the district. So we would have one that would be working with our South Putnam schools, one working with our Palatka area schools, and one working with our West Putnam schools. That person will be at each one of the schools within their area on the early warning system team. At the elementary and the middle school, their main focus will be helping them do the problem solving, helping that principal with going through that problem solving process, being a resource and helping them find the resources and some interventions. And then at the high school will be where they're truly hands-on, and they will be working with students at the high school level as an extra person there to truly get down to that student level at high school. Questions?
Board members, Ms. Crawford?
Well, first of all, Pam knows how I feel about her not being an administrator anymore because she was wonderful, but I think she's going to be an excellent graduation coach. I'm just so afraid she's going to be overwhelmed by the numbers of students that she's going to have to work with in the central area. Just from my experience at Palatka High School, you know, how many times I had to drag kids kicking and screaming onto the field to graduate
Right.
because they were their own worst enemies. Do we have any idea approximately how many students Pam's going to have to be working with
And that
in
is
a central
right.
area.
And that is one of the things we have talked about, is that we may realize that we may have to take Browning Pierce and move to the south coach, or
'Cause I think she's going to be
or Kelly
overwhelmed.
Smith or James A. Long, and we will look at student load and until we can really get into it and start looking at our numbers, we will make it as equitable as possible. We have already talked about that. Yes.
And I know that the high school counselors are going to be so grateful for what
Right.
she's going to be doing, because, I mean, it's a full-time job in addition to all the other
Right.
things that a counselor has to do. So she's going to be so welcomed by them. I just don't want her to be overwhelmed,
Right, and we have already discussed making sure that it is distributed as far as numbers go. Yes, ma'am.
So if one of the indicators for the third grade is all ones and twos, and we know that's 60% of our students, are you just gonna focus on the low ones, or are you gonna focus on the twos that are 2 points away?
That is something at this point that I don't want to answer, because it's more about how many other indicators do those students have as well.
In addition
So,
to that.
right, so it may be that if, based on interventions that those schools are already putting into place, and if the only indicator that student has is being a level 2, for example, on FSA, but you've got another student that's a level 2 and also has some attendance issues and some other issues that are going on, so it's almost like a triage
So
process.
are you trying
So-
to get the guidance counselors from the elementary level in that specific instance to identify? I mean, I'm just, trying to identify that and make it a feasible amount to where that coach can actually
Right.
work with
That
this
should
group.
already be
Well,
identified. I mean,
They know that
and
information.
again, clarification, the graduation coach will not be working with students at the elementary level. The
Oh.
graduation coach will only be working with student groups when it's the high school level,
Tripwire
okay?
will be up to the principal.
Right,
Yeah.
and the principals will be the lead on these teams.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, the graduation coach is a member of the team, but it is truly the responsibility of the principal to have his team together to track, so that when the graduation coach comes in at the elementary or the middle school level, they've already done some of that work, and then they're there as another resource to help them go through a problem-solving process. Okay, what are our
Give them some
barriers?
ideas,
Exactly.
Right.
So,
And then current third graders, or the third graders with the FSA, so they'd actually be fourth graders?
it'll be the incoming third graders. So we're
So
starting
then
with
you're
our
just
third grade.
using iReady data.
Well, and that's just the tripwire.
Right.
And they're
It-
gonna start, obviously with the foundation, you're gonna start trying to pull in more pre-K students, because those are the ones that are gonna start out behind. And if we can get them on.
And
Yeah,
again, I
beginning of
just
the
The
year.
principal will
want
be
to-
trying to get them ready for the
right,
third grade.
stress that we're not going to be ignoring any students
Right.
at all. So when we say that we're focusing on third grade, we're not ignoring the other grade levels in the school. It's just that that's where our main focus is going to be. All students are going to be tracked. Schools should already have some type of tracking process in
Yeah,
place.
Right.
This is just another resource that's going to really hone in on what interventions do we need to do for groups of students. This is looking for what are our trends, what are the things that we're seeing. When you start getting down to individual needs, that's more of your MTSS process.
I gotcha. So this graduation coach is not meeting with the elementary kids. This is more principal-based, third grade teachers. You're gonna do this in your classroom to initiate this
Bound to be some
graduation.
coordination.
Well, I mean, I just
Right.
don't want it to be another waste of time program.
It-
I do not want this to be a school-based, oh, you know what, we're gonna spend 40 minutes twice a week doing something that's not
Right.
productive. Those third grade teachers, they have so much focus on FSA. They are pulled out so much. And if this is just gonna take time away from classroom learning,
It's probably things they're already doing
well,
for
that's
those
what I wanna
kids that are
know.
behind.
I don't wanna say, oh,
Well,
this is
I think
great.
they're working on that.
Ms. Cummings, previously, because we have school-based management and we let our principals and their teachers together determine what are the needs of their students at their school, what we're doing is a district-wide focus. Instead of just leaving it to them
Okay.
individually at individual schools, we are saying this is a district-wide focus. Principals, we're going to come together as a district. We're going to talk about these issues. We're going to share what works and doesn't work.
But
We're
we
going
don't
to share
have
the
a
issues.
specific, like, early warning system curriculum. There's not some packet
There's-
somewhere.
No,
Okay.
there's
no, ma'am.
there's
It's
no, ma'am.
just coming
No.
up
Right.
with the principal
And-
saying,
And I think the beauty of it is that if your graduation coach has 3 or 4 elementary schools, and they see that there's a trend that's happening across all of those elementary schools, then that's going to be their responsibility to come back to us at the district office and go, okay, this is what we're seeing.
Okay.
So what can we do as a district to help these schools?
Right.
Or maybe it's a school trend that's happening, and that coach can work with that principal and, okay, this is what we're seeing in this problem solving, these are the barriers that we're seeing, how can we go about eliminating those barriers?
'cause when you
It
give
is,
a
it is
focus-
not a package, it is
Okay,
not
that's all
a,
I was,
no ma'am.
all right.
And that's why it's hard for me to say what each school's gonna do,
Okay.
because
I just,
it's going to be dependent on what those students' needs are.
right, and
They
their
will
needs.
be able, any district's instructional staff leader that goes by will be able to pull any child and know exactly where that child is, because you have that information right at your fingertips. So I think this is gonna be, it's like I told Jane a while ago, it's been done before, but it takes an effort that is, what you're undertaking is very massive, and it will lead to great things.
Yeah,
And there may be a time that at elementary schools, we'll have people that'll work more with pullouts and small groups and things like that to help keep the kids on reading level.
right.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Crawford.
So, we need to approve 2 more positions, or have we approved them and we need to hire for the south and the west? What's our next step?
We are waiting on approval that the Title I grant has been approved,
Okay.
so that we can post. I mean, I
So
think
do we
that's.
have any idea
Our
when that's gonna be?
I'm not sure
problem
where
with
we
that
are
is
at
they
right
normally
now.
don't approve it until September or October.
This is
And
where
we
I'm like
need
getting.
our
Yeah.
3 graduation coaches July 1st.
Absolutely. So they can
they
start.
can already be pulling that data. They can be visiting homes. They
So
can
that
get
grant
kids
can pay us
excited
back?
about what we're doing. There's a lot of things our graduation coaches can be doing already. But we don't have them because we don't really have the money. When I look at Rhonda and say, I want to hire 3 more positions, she just wants to hurt me.
But one of them's been hired, right?
Yes, ma'am. One of
Yes.
them we have in place.
Okay, so it would be hiring
2 more.
2 more.
Yes, ma'am.
We totally expect for our Title I funding to come through for this. We just can't wait until September or October. So my proposal to you is that we request that Rhonda, as she does with our Title I teachers, front load or fund until the budget is approved, and then we do a chargeback to get the money back from the federal program and then give it back to the district.
I don't front load Title I teachers.
Deborah, isn't that what we said?
No, ma'am. You're allowed, and a letter we got today allows for us to go ahead and utilize 25% of the
That's
Title I
right.
funds
Oh,
for
okay.
16-17.
Okay.
So there already is 25% available.
And how much is that?
Salary, 25% of 6 million. So.
Oh, so we,
thank you,
However,
Steve.
however,
What'd you say?
Jeez, quick, 1.5.
I said 1.7.
however,
That was just off the
those
top of
are
my head.
used in our schools for
Right. Teaching.
positions,
Yeah,
for
it's
teaching
not just-
positions.
It pays a lot. It pays for my whole department. It pays for teaching positions and parapros and other things that we start letting the principals spend a little bit of the money that's allocated to them.
So,
I would
so the
just-
issue would be if in that 1.5, there's not enough to go ahead and fund these 3 positions, or at least 2 additional.
There probably
Are
would
we
be.
able to do that through the district so that we can get started on this plan until the money is approved?
on everything
What
else?
I was going to ask Rhonda, I think it's incumbent on the board to try to resolve this situation based on, the data we have. This is not something that's never been done before. We can do it. But would it be probably better, Rhonda, if we tried to put a freeze on some administrative hiring positions until we get the money back?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that we have any vacant.
Well, I mean, if somebody goes, just maybe look at carefully at who leaves and maybe try not to replace anybody for a while till we get these issues resolved.
It's not keeping up with our expenditures. We're going further, our fund balance is getting smaller and smaller every year. I don't know who might be out there that we could put a freeze on hiring, because I don't know of any vacancies right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think,
It's whatever the board decides
Well,
is your best priorities on the money, and if we have to cut somewhere else, we can cut
What-
services. We
yeah,
can look
what
at
I would,
vendors to
what
see
I
if
would
we
like
can
to
bang
see
for our buck.
is the services cut somewhere else if there becomes a vacancy, as vacancies occur. And then on an individual basis, the superintendent, brings it to the board. And until we find a way to fund this in a manner that, I think there's room to do that, and there's some latitude, and of course, it's easier to say than it is to do.
Exactly.
Because then you've got somebody yelling about it and somebody mad because they don't have the same job or whatever. Or they wanted the job and then it's frozen.
Departments to cut budgets.
But anyway, I think it would be, that would be a desire, and it's been done with past boards. I know I've seen it done before, so. Board members, do you have any strong feelings about this?
I do. I would like to see a report back from these people that we hire after the first semester to see that it's not just more of the same
Well, you'll,
pony show nonsense. Sorry, but
and one of goal 5, one of the strategies is that the graduation coaches will be meeting quarterly with myself and Miss France and Miss Criswell. So, and as well will the principals, we will be meeting with them to see what they are doing as well.
maybe we can
So-
schedule the second quarterly meeting as a workshop, or right after they meet with you, they could
And I can,
present to the board or whatever. But
ma'am.
I mean, I don't mind spending money if we're getting results, but if just more of the same.
Well, I mean, but we gotta
So
try,
many.
we gotta do something.
and I
We've
would,
been doing things. We've been
and I
doing
will say
Okay, well, that
that,
didn't work, so now we need to try something else
we do need to realize that our graduation rates did not get to where they are
overnight.
overnight or in 1 year. And this is a 5-year plan. There's no way we can put all of the strategies into place the first year. So I can't guarantee you that we're going to get results the first semester. But I can give you a report of what's being done.
For
So,
results, I just
Right.
like to know
Yes,
what we're
ma'am.
paying them to do.
yes, ma'am.
You can't get results.
I'll
It takes years.
I'll come talk to you
That's the
offline.
problem. And
Okay. And I will I will get the PowerPoint to each one of you. Again, I will show you, there are 2 full slides of readings and research. If you need some reading for enjoyment, there's plenty of it there.
Tanya, and I know this is just little things, but I envision Pam sitting down with those kids and saying, you've got these options. You can make up this course on Florida Virtual School. And then if they do that, she's kind of tracking their progress on Florida Virtual School, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing to earn back that credit. Or she's making sure they go to night school. Well, it's not night school anymore.
Right.
It's afternoon. I mean, are those the kinds of things that, that
Pam,
y'all
why
are-
don't you come on up?
it
Because
takes.
she is very excited about
She-
this
Because
opportunity.
it's very hard for a high school guidance counselor with
And-
that
and I
many
will say
kids
that-
to have to.
Pam has been working nonstop since we brought her
I
in.
know she has. I know she has.
Sometime in June, and so she's having to catch me up on everything that she's already started doing.
Okay. What was your question?
Well, I just, some of the things you're thinking about doing with those high school kids are things that, we've been doing anyway, but it's so hard for a counselor to keep up with it all. I just kind of have vision of you going in and sitting down with those kids that are behind in credits and making sure they're utilizing all the ways that they can gain that credit back. Night school, Florida Virtual School, wherever, and that they're staying on track with that. That's just one of the things. I know that you've probably got all kinds of wonderful ideas
Yes, I have lots of ideas,
I know you do.
but what we are looking at is looking at the students to see where they actually are and showing them that they have a path to success. And so we're looking at their credits, their GPA, and all of the other indicators that she mentioned during the slideshow. And we're going to sit down with them and show them how they can graduate,
Right.
how they can get to that point, whether that be through night school, credit recovery, through Odyssey Ware, Florida Virtual School, whatever we can use to help them get there. So that's my plan.
Right.
To-
And Marlene should have that ready for you when school starts.
Yes,
With
we,
her-
we have already been looking at the data from
Yeah.
all of the high schools.
That's wonderful.
We know the credit shortages that the students have. We know whether they need an online learning credit as a graduation requirement. We know all of that information. So now we just need to make sure our students know what they need.
Yeah.
And they make them responsible for their education.
Well, I know, Pam, and I don't know if you were probably at the high school. I don't know if all high schools, but when I taught at Crescent City, we had specific homerooms. We sat down, we talked about it. It was our advisor. We called it our little advisor group. And that's something that's been done. It's something that, it's just focusing on that homeroom. So is that
Teachers
something?
have to buy into that too.
Correct. Is that what you're saying, like having teachers buy into this and you're going to train the teachers? Or are you going to just target the kids and meet one-on-one with those kids and talk to them?
Well, I won't be training the teachers, but I will be going in, meeting with the administration of each school to set up structures to make this plan work. We'll be setting up structures with all of the principals
Right.
to make sure we make this plan work.
Okay.
But right now, you're going to be focusing on the kids that are already behind in credits.
Already behind in
Right.
credits, need GPA work, who need several things, who still need to pass FSA reading or math, and getting them in there, making sure that they take their retakes. If they're absent, they can't take the retake. So making sure they're at school, checking on them that morning of the retake, checking on that student to make sure that student is in that room taking that retake, because they need every opportunity that they can
Right.
to do that retake.
It's up to the principals how they structure a teacher as advisor type program for this. And they may choose to do it and they may choose not to.
But we just said this was a district-wide, we're going to do it across the board.
Well, and that's one of the goals on our strategies
Yeah,
on
but I
here
mean, the
somewhere to
principal will
have a TA
The principal
group.
will have to figure out how to do it though.
Yes, over the years, we have had advising. And this past year, most of the schools had the mentoring programs where we had groups of students. Each employee was assigned a group of students, and we mentored that group, and we kept up with their grades, and we talked to them. We had conversations with them to encourage them to keep going. And if they had struggles, they could share that with us, and they had that opportunity. They had that little bit of time, because I was at Palatka High, and then I was at QI Roberts. So I've seen it in both settings where we meet with those students and we have conversations with those students, and they want to know. Students just want to know. And our goal with all of this is high school graduation, but also to encourage them for career and post-secondary education.
And a lot of it is just setting up a relationship with someone they trust, someone they will listen to. A lot of these kids are not motivated. They don't care if they graduate or not. And if you have somebody on top of them, our guidance counselors just don't have the time because of their many duties, and we have to start somewhere. Are 3 coaches enough? No, I don't think so. But it's better to start here, and it's that old starfish story. You throw one back, that's one less that's not made it. So the same thing with these 3 coaches. They're gonna save some kids. They're gonna turn some kids around. Are we gonna turn everybody around the first year? Probably not. But as we move forward, we will have less and less to turn around because of the effort, and because we are, instead of doing this individually at the schools, letting the principals do it, we're making it a district-wide focus and effort.
And we do have some different ways that we are going to be tracking data. And if y'all would like a workshop, we can give you some mock data to kind of show you what some of those tracking tools and how we will be looking at grade distributions and how we'll be looking at even iReady data or course class assessments and just some different things that are going on in the school. We can do that. I know that y'all probably have lots of other questions, And so that's, and then after the first quarter, we can actually show you some of the ways that we have actually been tracking data once we get our other coaches in. So.
I'm fortunate because I sat in and listened to the discussion prior to the meeting, but I would like to just direct the superintendent, to bring it back to us on agenda at some point.
For what?
Huh?
What do we have to vote on?
Well, I thought we were gonna have to vote on it. We're gonna allocate dollars.
Bring allocations to the.
We did, I thought we already approved the allocation.
We
Approved
approved
the
the
job
job
description.
description.
Job description.
It have to be allocations brought in on the second.
We approved the job
Job description. So today's presentation is so that we can prepare you to approve the job description. The next thing would be, trying to figure out what are we
Approve
going to
the
do. Now,
allocation.
I will tell you that I have enlisted Mr. Green's help because he is directed by the State Board of Education, and I told him that waiting until September or October to get our approval on our federal dollars is not going to help us put this into place as quickly as we need. So my request to him today was to go back to Tallahassee and get with the Commissioner of Education and get with the head of federal programs and say, are you going to help us do what you say will be successful for us? If you are, then give us preliminary approval so we can move forward now. We can't wait. This can't wait. So he will do that, and hopefully he will be successful. They are expecting he and the DA team to make a difference in the Region 2 where they are currently working, and certainly they have made a difference in Putnam County and the things that we've put into place and the improvement that we've seen. So we enjoy working with them. They are a tremendous help to us. And I talked to Mr. Green before the meeting about the lack of personnel in a poor district. There are not enough people to reach out and work with each individual child. And he said he understands that, and he's had that conversation for all of his small, poor districts with the commissioner. Are we going to get relief and help from the state? Probably not. But if they will at least approve this program so that we can move forward with it at this time, we will see a difference for a lot of children. Not everybody the first year, but a lot.
I have a question. How could we have someone in a position we haven't approved the position?
Within Title I, we still had a position that was one of our school improvement specialists. And so she's working as our school improvement specialist with a focus on graduation
Okay,
initiative.
and when is this going to come before us as allocation approval?
August 2nd.
August 2nd. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would just say that as we move ahead and we get Title I money or maybe money from the state, I would just caution the board that often great initiatives have started with state funding and they've sunset because state funding ends. So we just,
But this isn't state funding. This is federal funding that comes
Title
every
I-
year.
Okay. I'm not sure they're any better.
Well, you're right.
And I'm not sure they're any better. Now, I'm just saying, I get it. I get Title I. Got it. Been through the class. Just saying, as we move ahead, let's just be mindful that if Title I money were to shift, dry up, or decrease, if this is something of value, board, we have to be thinking on how to allocate our funds to sustain this program if it's effective. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it will be effective. That's why I mentioned that we might look at freezing or having on a case-by-case basis any potential administrative position, or if someone resigns or retires, we might look at just shifting people around, trying to find a way to not hire additional people and cover the cost of this.
And we just have to be mindful of that.
Yes.
I mean, out of 7 years, I've seen great things come and go. Not our fault. It's just the money that we get and then don't get. So I'm just saying we need to be mindful as we
Well,
move
the
ahead.
federal dollars do change from year to year, and we did lose some federal dollars this year. But Deborah was able to take the dollars that we are getting and make sure that we can continue what we've been doing. This was in addition to that.
Right.
and she feels like the funding will be there, but she can't move forward until she gets approval from the state, and we need to have that on the fast track for those districts that are working with their region teams, and that's what.
I have no argument with that. I'm with that 100. I'm with you 100,000%. I'm just saying, as we look forward, if this is as successful as we hope, as we look forward, we just have to be mindful that perhaps that money could dry up or be shifted by the federal government, and we would have to fund it. That's
Well, you don't have to fund anything if you don't have the money.
if it
it's
is successful,
we
we
would
want
hope
to.
that
We would
we
want
would
to.
make
Right.
some adjustments to other areas so that we could keep
Sure,
it. But that'll be totally up to you.
Of course, we want to do that. I'm just saying we got to be mindful of that. That as we move ahead, keep in the back of your head because we might have to make some shifts to sustain it.
Ms. Crawford,
I don't think that's adversarial. No, I think that's pretty simple.
Well, it's still, it's something that can be done if you have to take a smaller school and reduce an administrator or something like that to help fill the position. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and we'll look forward to hearing back from you guys later on. I don't think it's impossible, so we'll look forward to it coming at what meeting?
The
August?
allocations for
August
on
2nd.
August 2nd.
Is that our next meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you. It was a great job. Pam, I'll have to be nice to you from now on. I've always been nice to Pam. All right, moving on to the public comments. I have 2 comments cards. If you still would like to speak, please get a card from Pam Douglas over here. First up is Mr. Chuck Oakwood on textbooks for his classroom. Okay?
I'm going to pass to you while he's coming up to speak the email that I originally sent to you on this particular issue, and Helen Muir is here to speak also if need be.
My name is Chuck Oakwood. I live at 566 Clifton Road, Crescent City, Florida. And I've been a teacher at Crescent City High School for the last 6 years, social studies. And the last 2 years, I have taught world history, core curriculum subject. And for the last 2 years, I have been trying to get textbooks for my children. And a month from now, they're going to be sitting in their seats, and I'm going to give you copies of what they're going to be getting. Now, these are complimentary. If you could please just pass them down. And I want you to pay particular attention to the copyright date.
I forgot how heavy books were.
I know.
Keep in mind, these books cost $100 a piece.
The new ones probably cost a little more because they come with internet resources. They're called licenses today.
These are in good shape.
These also come with that and workbooks.
Well, I beg to disagree, having used them for several years now. Now, my point is this. These books are not aligned to our state objectives that I'm supposed to be teaching. Now, I have copies of our state statutes. If you're interested, I could forward them to you, that say that every 5 years in our core curriculum subjects, we are to adopt state-adopted textbooks. Now, for the past 2 5-year cycles, that has not happened for world history at Crescent City High School. Now, I'm not here to tell you who in the past or who in the present might have spent that money on something else. But I do know that I am embarrassed as a teacher to put that book on a desk and have a child use it. You'll notice that George W. Bush was just elected in his first term. Now, some folks think that history doesn't change, so we can keep using the same book. What does change are the learning objectives that I am required to teach by state statute, and this book does not address it. Now, lastly, it was suggested to me, and I'm being serious now, that I use a website called Shmoop. Shmoop.
Can you spell that?
Shmoop. Just like it sounds. I encourage you to log on, take a look at Shmoop. Because I took the trouble this morning to double check to make sure that I got it right. This is a website that's a private virtual school. It claims to have Common Core curriculum standards, which we in Florida do not. So once again, standards cannot be met. And if you go into the world history part, which is at the very end, takes a few clicks to get there. If you click on some of the links, it's not just embarrassing. Now, I'm speaking publicly, but I'm going to tell you that some of those YouTube clips that would be seen by my students if I were to use that site are not appropriate for any child to see. So I'm at a loss here. In a month, my students come in and sit down. This is the only book I have available. I do not have enough books for them to take home for each and every student. And I'm asking the board, a policy-making board, to handle an administrative issue that I've tried to resolve with my principal, our curriculum director, and our superintendent. This is not about me. I've already retired once from Monroe County. I'm planning to teach one more year before I retire again. I would like that year to be successful for my students. It's as simple as that. So I'm hoping that you can have a little more influence with our administration to get me a current textbook with licenses that has the state objectives that I'm supposed to be teaching instead of something that is something that's not appropriate, put it that way.
Thank you, Mr. Oakwood.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You want your books back? Yeah.
Well, no, I'm going to let you keep these. The reason being is it wouldn't make any difference for my children because there's not enough books for all of them to take home. And I'm not going to tell which child can take one home and can't take one home.
But you've got a classroom set.
A classroom
Right.
set.
Well, I taught many years with just a classroom set. You
Correct.
have to
There
make
was a-
do.
There
Yes.
was a time years ago when the board bought duplicate textbooks for every student and left one at school and let them take one home, and we
Remember
lost
that?
Yes.
tens
Millions.
and thousands of dollars worth of textbooks that they never brought back. But
Right.
thank you, Mr. Oakwood.
Thank you.
Helen, did you want to speak?
Yes, I did want to say, last year, Mr. Oakwood sent me a notice and said that he needed textbooks. Actually, by law, you cannot buy an entire set of books out of the adoption cycle. Since Ms. Criswell has been in office as superintendent, we did not have a social studies adoption. In fact, this year, we will begin the social studies adoption. So I understood, I felt his angst when he said, I have these old books, they're 10 years old. I was not here, nor was Ms. Criswell, during that time that those adoptions happened. However, so what I did was I ordered a class set of books. And quite honestly,
Of new, updated.
brand new, that he asked, he told, I said, tell me what you want that's on the adoption list, and we'll get that for you. So we did, and it did come with a teacher's manual and also with web-based assistance. Not for individual students, but for 30, and quite honestly, the folks from Florida School Book Depository said, you can use this, it'll work.
You can what?
You can use it by using, the kids can go on
Right.
like number 1 through 30. And so anyway, I don't think those books have ever been unpacked because Mr. Oakwood believes that every student ought to have their own book that they can take home, which used to be in statute but is no longer. At this point in time, because of the excess accessibility of knowledge, and because of the fact that, quite honestly, we now use textbooks as a tool to support instruction. But they're not the tool. The tool is the teacher's creativity that enables them to engage students in doing what people do now, which is use the internet. If you look on CPALMS, which is the state's system for all of the standards, they will list a variety of resources, including YouTube videos. The Library of Congress is wonderful in terms of you can get movies, videos on historical aspects. You can also get copies of primary sources where students can read about history. At this point, this year is the year we will start getting the copies for the next adoption, which in 2017, those books will be used.
And we still may not be able to buy a book for every
We will
student.
never buy a book, I mean, quite honestly, I don't see that happening again. It just doesn't, it's not feasible, not at $150 a book.
So when did you get this box of new books? This
Last
class
year,
set?
let me see the date. October 6, 2015. So last October.
And they were never used.
To my knowledge, I asked the principal and Ms. Higginbotham, and she said she thinks they're in the closet. And
You think, sir, what?
In the closet.
in the closet. They were delivered. I made some contacts with the Florida School Book Depository about the availability to go online because Mr. Oakwood had not started to use the online version. And we spoke with the person that works at Florida School Book Depository. She said, it's okay, just has to use these, has to go online and do that. It was a personal choice not to.
The days of every child having a textbook and you're saying, open to chapter 1, let's read the chapter and do the questions at the end is over. That is not what the state says we're supposed to do anymore. And the state has also said within the next 4 years, we will be totally digital. There will be no textbooks. Everything will be digital.
already schools-
And that's what the state is
Already
taking us
counties
to, and there are
doing it.
already counties that are doing that. So it's a style of teaching that has gone out of style and is not accepted by the state anymore. And if you have 30 books in your classroom and you have the internet available to you and CPALMS, which the state provides and says to please use, and SHMOOP, which is something we provide that the state recognizes, you have resources you can use and there's no reason you can't use them. And they are more interesting to the students as well. And every teacher has a computer and a screen in their classroom, so.
Mr. Oakwood, did you wish to respond?
Very briefly, I know time is valuable. I'm not happy that people are speaking for me, so let me just talk about 30 books that are in my closet. They are indeed there. They are brand-new textbooks, the type of books I'm asking this board to purchase. The problem is each of those books, in order to use them, must come with an internet license. And that license is good for one student. It cannot be transferred from class to class to class to class. So to ask me to pick 30 of my 120 students and say, you guys get the new book and you guys get the old book, I will not do that. Those 30 books that I have are useless unless you have a license to go with them. And those licenses did not come with those books. In my last conversation last year, those licenses ended up at Interlochen High School somehow.
You can't use the book without the license?
Correct.
Why? I
That's
never
the
had
nature.
licenses when I had,
No, I think you can use the book. You can't use internet access that's transferable to.
But here's
everybody.
the thing.
information's in the book.
The
The books are not the
standards,
same.
the standards for his subject is what he's supposed to be teaching all he has to do is look at the standards and find where it is in the book and use those books with his students. He doesn't have 30 students in his class every period. He's got 30 books. That's plenty of books. Every class period, he knows what standard he's supposed to be covering. You could refer to it in the book with the students, and you don't go chapter by chapter and page by page, and you don't tell the kids to answer the questions at the end. It is a creativity that teachers have asked for a long time, and the resources that they're given to do that is available through CPOMS, through the Library of Congress, and you don't need licenses for that, and also for SHMOOP, because we also provide that for our teachers. So there's plenty there. He has a personal choice that he doesn't want to use that, and I'm sorry, but he has everything he needs, and we need to move on.
Mr.
Okay.
Oakwood, I appreciate you coming all the way from Clifton Road.
Well, thank
I know
you.
you'd much rather be down there than up here. doing
Correct.
this, so.
And if I heard it right, I will be creating my own curriculum this coming school year.
That'll
No,
be
your
up to you.
curriculum is the Florida state standards. That's your curriculum. How you choose to teach it is the creativity. You know what you're supposed to teach, those standards. You decide how you want to teach
We can agree to
it.
disagree. Thank you.
You can do that. Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we have Mr. Mike Perry is going to come to us with a wonderful subject. If I didn't say that, Mike, Ms. Crawford.
And Mike, I'm
punch me.
sorry, I thought he'd be right at the, kind of close to the beginning.
That's quite all right. This has been
She
very,
told me to stall you
No, I
as
did
far as I
not.
could.
well, sir, let me tell you, it's been very educational, quite frankly. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Perry, 601 Reed Street, Palatka, USA. Mr. Chairman, I'm here today on behalf of the March for Babies campaign and would like to thank Superintendent Criswell and the honorable members of this board for supporting our effort this year, and it has been a successful effort. Your principals and teachers have thought outside the box to devise fun and innovative ways to make this fundraising effort not only exciting but educational for their students. I must tell this board in all seriousness that the Putnam County schools are the backbone of this effort. Without Putnam County schools, their outstanding principals, teachers, and students, then March for Babies would never reach their goals. I would like to thank you on behalf of the entire March for Babies organization, and I hope you have a very nice evening. Thank you very much.
Mike, I would like to thank you. I know that several people on here, myself included, have many times over the years chaired the March of Dimes in Putnam County. In 10 years, I can remember we raised over $1 million for the March of Dimes in Putnam County. And what you do impacts our children who are at most in need that would never catch up academically if they didn't have the help that they get through the March of Dimes.
Thank you so much,
So
Mr.
God bless you and thank you.
Well, thank you. God bless you.
Mike's going to do a great job with our principals this year. He is the chair this year
Yes,
for
sir.
March of Dimes, so God bless you and good luck, Mike.
Well, thank you very much. I'd also like to recognize my colleague, Charlie Douglas, who has also served on our executive board and has done a great job. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
See you, Mike.
All right, having no more public comment, no one else? Okay. Moving along, we will go to the consent agenda. Do any members of the board have any item they would like to pull from the consent agenda?
Yeah, I
Ms.
do,
George.
but, no, thank you.
Ms. Crawford?
I do, but go on past me because I forgot to
I have
mark.
two quick ones, but they're quick. D2 F1,
Which one's D2 and which one's F1?
the opening and closing times and the warehouse lease.
Okay, well, I want to pull the one that, the change order.
Well, hold on. Nikki,
That's
you
under
said-
emergency.
You said,
That's emergency?
you
No,
said
F2.
F1 and.
F2.
You said F1 and
D2,
D2.
F1.
All right.
Thanks.
F2 you want, I think,
D1, D is in dog.
Jane, are you
Yes,
first
F2,
tech?
F2.
You want F2, Jane? Jane, F2. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move we accept the consent agenda minus F1, F2, and D2.
second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, first one, revised 2016-2017 opening and closing time. That would be D2.
Yes, and I'm sorry, this was a quick question, which I tried to get with Ms. Criswell yesterday and I missed her, but If we're not, since Mellon and Mosley went up a grade, are we still in the bottom 300, and do we still need that extra hour of school for those two schools?
I think they are still in the bottom 300, and they will have to
Okay.
do that hour.
That is, even though they're Ds. Darn. Okay. I make a motion to approve item D2.
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, moving along to consent agenda F1, extension of warehouse lease.
And that is something I know I always bug Scott about, just trying to get a timeline. That is something I totally keep talking about. Warehouse, where are we gonna move it? Where are we gonna move it? Let's quit paying rent. But I don't know if we had a plan in the 5-year plan. I know we probably
I
have
have
another
talked
year.
with Scott, and he can come on up. He knows my desire is to, since we have purchasing over in at the old East Palatka campus of Browning Pierce, and we can't use that as a school site anymore, that ultimately I would like to build our warehouse there. And let me just tell you what I have said to Scott and to Rhonda. My dream is, rather than paying $4,000 a month on a warehouse to a gentleman who not only does he not live in Putnam County, he doesn't live in the state of Florida. My fear is that at any moment he can say, we're going to raise that rent, and what choice do we have? Or, hey, y'all have to move out because I've sold it.
Yeah.
So my thought, radical as it is that the board would at some point work with a local bank to purchase money, to borrow money, to build a warehouse on property we already own and pay the bank $4,000 a month. And then there's no worry about it going up or our losing the property, and there would be an end in sight to that $4,000 because we would pay that off, and it makes more sense to me to do that. However, when I've mentioned it to Rhonda, she has said, and I do not understand the financial end of that normally we don't borrow money as a school district. This is a situation that would behoove us to look at doing that and see if the state would work with us, because I would rather keep that money here in
It's
Putnam
budgeted,
County.
right, it's already budgeted.
And if there is a way that we can go to the bank and we can say, okay, we're going to borrow the money, we're going to build our warehouse, we're going to pay you the $4,000 a month, and then the money stays here and there's an end in sight to that $4,000. Now that's my thought, but that's just the way I think, and Scott and Rhonda can probably tell you something different.
It's like everything else. It all comes down to, budget.
Budget priorities, and
Comes down to the rules on what you can borrow money.
Right.
Correct.
because we could borrow for transportation.
Not just going to, bank and borrow the money. You have to look at sales tax, half pennies, you have to bill before the voters in order to
Yeah.
get, to obligate money, getting bonds and stuff. We can do like master service agreements with a bank for purchasing buses, but currently I have not seen listed anywhere to buy. borrowing money.
I
It
just
may
gotta,
be-
I gotta tell you, I'm
research is
scared,
easy, but
I just, on what I've done, I'm, in the past, I've got hesitation. I think it's a wonderful idea to get it in a different fashion, but I'm just kinda,
Well, I'm just trying to think rationally. Isn't it
That's
rational to say that 4,000 leaves not only the county but the state every single month and has for years? And at any moment, that gentleman can say, I've sold the building, too bad, so sad, I don't know what y'all are going to do. Or he could say, I think I want 5,000 a month from you guys. And then what do we do and where do we go? And we provide for all 18 schools through that warehouse. We save money by what we do, and it just makes sense to put it on the property that we already own and we're purchasing, and their offices now reside. It just makes sense. Now, I don't know why the state has these laws. They handicap small districts all the time, and I would say let's get our lobbyist working on someone in the legislature or the governor to make an exception for us. There's always exceptions that can be written to the rules. Anyway, it just makes sense because you borrow the money, you build it, and then you start paying the bank $4,000 a month. To me, it makes sense, and that's how I would do at my own home. If I needed to quit using my neighbor's garage and wanted my own, I would build it and pay the bank instead of paying my neighbor who might move or raise my rent. You know, I'm just saying it makes sense to me, but that's up to you guys.
That's kind of what I was hoping, that we'd have a plan. Is it gonna be $1 million project?
It's about a $1.5 to $2 million project.
Okay, so
There'd
that
be
would
site
be,
work and storm water retention and all the things that would go along with
And
it.
a lot of that cost is because of what the state makes us
Absolutely.
do as a school district in construction.
Correct.
It's not that we're building some kind of Taj Mahal. It
Yeah.
is the very stringent building issues that come from the state, and I think people don't understand that.
okay.
You gotta have concrete floor for tow motors and stuff like that. Rhonda, this would normally be a bond issue or something that would go before the voters. I don't think that would pass.
That's why I say
And
that's a
and
ridiculous
just-
thing when we could do it a different way.
I guess I'm reluctant, because I can't remember ever borrowing money and paying it back. Now, that's not a bad idea, it's a great idea, but if you had somebody come in and collapse it, we would just have to make do in that old place like it is until we could bring it up to snuff. And Scott would probably tell me that it wouldn't fit in there. So I done Schmoop, look it up on Schmoop. I don't know, Ms. Criswell, I'll have to hear from the rest of the board.
Research it to see what's out there for us. You know, certain districts do TANs, but that's tax anticipation notes, and we already have all of our tax money obligated, it's mainly salaries and benefits. And there's QZABs out there, but that's an academy bond, and there's a little bit of strings attached.
You know,
here and there.
my-
There are different opportunities, but if the board
my-
says we want to go
Does
in
Roy
there,
have
I will
anything
look
on
into
this?
it and see what's
My fear is go back to 2008 when everything will bust. You got the European markets crazy like they are, and the state, you know, we have another fall, and state funding is cut, and we're on the hook for $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
But we're already doing that and have been
But,
for
I mean,
years.
you might
So
have
what are
to
you gonna
stop.
do if you
We
stop?
might- we
Where are
might
you gonna
have to-
put everything?
We have to figure out somewhere.
Where are you gonna put everything we have right now?
Well,
I mean, yeah, I'm
I'm-
just saying, I'm just saying.
In his
agree.
garage.
I
It's
agree.
just,
I
we
don't
have a
garage.
short, my thing is, we have a short-term solution. The 4,000 a
long-term
month
problem.
has a long-time problem. It's not gonna go away. We always need a warehouse. The more we put money in rent, the less we have to build a new warehouse. So if
Mr.
we make it
Gatchell,
a-
how many square feet do we currently have that we're using, and how many square feet do we actually
We're
need?
currently leasing 10,000 square feet.
And
We're
is there
probably
any other
on-
place in town that we could get the 10,000 square feet?
Probably not for less than
That's
we're
what I
paying
thought.
now that would have the facilities that are out there. I mean, it's got the auto leveling docks. I mean, it's a state-of-the-art facility. It suits our needs. We wish we owned it.
Yeah.
How much we paying per square foot, Scott?
It would cost us a lot more to buy that building than for
Oh, yeah, I
us
mean,
to
there's-
build
I don't even
what
know
we
how many
need,
hundreds
yeah.
of thousands of square feet are
Yes.
part of that facility.
Oh.
It's the
And
old.
we just
you know,
use a small
Right,
portion
we're
of
in a
it.
corner of the old
If you had
Florida
the
furniture.
facility and you rented out the other portions of it, you could probably do well with it.
Oh,
But if they could rent it, they'd be renting it now.
They
so-
would, and they've tried to rent little pieces
not
and
in that
parts around us, and it hasn't lasted very long. We're the only real long-term, tenant
Pleasure
there.
board, if you
I
guys
just,
want
Could we research the possibilities?
But purchasing just that part, I'm afraid that.
No,
DOE
no,
would
no,
not-
no, no, no.
I'm sorry.
I mean, research possibilities of doing our own on our own property. That is
absolutely.
ultimately the goal for long-term. This school district is going to be here a long time, and what we do and the money we save by purchasing in bulk and having a warehouse to hold it and letting our schools order the things they need from our own warehouse is a huge savings to us. And in order to continue that and not have to pay $4,000 a month for the next 50 years, it would be nice to research a way that we can, without going to the taxpayers and asking them for money, finding another, because they're not going to do that, and I totally understand. But it makes no sense for us to take $4,000 a month for something that we need and send it to a man outside the state of Florida. I would prefer to find a way to keep that money here in Putnam County, and I have been saying this for 3 years now. And nobody wants to work with me. I know, I'm Chicken Little and the sky is falling.
I used to, I've been through this. We had plans. I don't want to say we had plans. The board had plans to build a warehouse there, but it
We
kept-
do.
it
They're
kept
fully
going, it
engineered
kept
drawings.
going, and
Oh, they
kept being
are?
put off.
Absolutely.
we don't
They're
have
shovel
Had that-
ready.
We've had that in the works for many years, and then charter
Correct.
schools got in it, and communities and schools got over there, and one thing led to another, and there is a very solid concrete structures on those old wings. You're talking about the old Browning Pierce right there
Yes, sir.
behind the racetrack.
Yes, sir.
Raceway.
So we have to make it a priority. That's all. We've
Well,
got Campbell
correct.
Building, we got transportation, we got Middleton Bernie.
That's
So the
correct.
next thing on the agenda is make it a priority.
Yes, ma'am, that's the next thing on my agenda.
That's all you gotta do.
Trying to get
It
things
is.
done for
It
this
is.
community, yeah.
There you
I'll
go.
get it done and move
That's
on, and I see Sandy coming up here, but
Just a minor
Go ahead.
comment. 34 years ago.
Sandy, introduce yourself since you're on
I'm
TV.
Sandra Scranton. I'm the Director of Purchasing.
And
When
you
I was
deal with the warehouse
Yes.
daily.
The warehouse
Yes,
queen.
talk about that.
Yes, 34 years ago, during my job interview on a chair with only 3 casters at the old Washington Street address warehouse, I was told the warehouse was in the 5-year plan. I'm going into drop pretty soon,
Bless your heart.
That's all
You'd like to see it before you retire.
I put it off 12 years, and my problem is.
He had it in his 12-year plan.
Yeah, my problem is I've just always felt like you need
something
to
more
wait till the
important.
state comes through with the money instead of borrowing because of the unforeseen circumstances.
We had all that money.
We were there.
That's why you had all that money.
Now,
'cause
why
we
didn't you do it then?
didn't
Come
build-
on.
We
That
were
was your
right
job.
there at the planning stages. We were meeting once a week for about 6 weeks, planning it, had the blueprints, had everything, and then like Mr. Buckles said, everything fell down.
You missed
So-
it. You missed the,
Well, we put
Pie in the
$22
sky.
million in the schools in Putnam County. I think Ms. Jorgensen was on the board then, and it was a pretty good
what would
initiative.
another million be?
It doesn't have anything to do with
Thank you.
today, though.
Yes,
All right.
we
well,
have
I
put a
just
lot
want
of
to fuss
money.
at it. I'll approve it, but let's keep it
Wait, don't go anywhere, Scott.
F1. I make a motion to approve item F1.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Did you want to ask another question of Mr. Gatchell?
No, it's about the next one.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Board chair says no. But it passes.
What are you talking? You're not.
I didn't vote for
For
borrowing
the
the money.
lease?
We're talking about leasing the
Oh, you're
building.
talking about, okay, let's restate it again.
I make a motion to approve item F1.
Extension.
I second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
I just listened to too many people talk about borrowing. The borrowed money scares me because
F2.
I don't like
That's
to
the
owe
logical
money.
thing to do.
It's not
I'm
on,
sorry.
it's not on the agenda. therefore we
F2,
cannot vote.
consent agenda, Ms.
Scott.
Crawford.
Will you explain to me in Jane Crawford terms?
ma'am.
What the $70,825
Yeah, and
is?
basically what that is that's a clarification of the original GMP. When they gave us a GMP, the drawings were not complete. It was basically a budget estimated GMP. Since the time that we approved the original GMP, they have bid everything out. The actual GMP has solidified, and those are the numbers that have come in based on the scope of work as they've changed. And this was on the emergency agenda, I'm trying to remember,
Yes.
from
two
way back.
last- you about that last
We
2 months ago.
correct, and we pulled that pending what was
And it's
the
still
turmoil that
pending, but
had,
do not exceed, so.
correct. Nothing's changed since it was originally submitted, other than the issues that we've
Right.
become aware of with First Coast Technical.
Okay.
It was just because the drawings actually were completed since the GMP was completed.
And let me
this
just remind the public, because again, this is televised, that these dollars are not out of our general fund or out of our
correct.
current capital outlay or anything that we currently have. These are, this is the $2.1 million that our lobbyist procured for us and was given to us by the governor in addition to any monies that we already have, and they were specifically designated for the renovation to help us provide a building where we could provide additional vocational classes for high school students. And that's the sole purpose of this money, to prepare that building so that we can offer more to our high school students. I want that very clear. And it's not out of our budget in
Correct,
any
not
way,
at all.
shape, or form.
Well,
Okay,
we received the money, or First Coast
It
or
is,
St.
no,
John's,
it is,
or-
it is in a fund in Tallahassee, and as Rhonda gets the invoices, she can draw the money down to pay.
Correct.
Yes, so, yes.
what building house?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve F2.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, when we will go into emergency session, and first on the emergency session is additional work hours for Middleton Bernie Elementary School reading coach. Justification explanation is time sensitive.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Number 2, additional work hours in Locken High School, TOSA. Justification explanation time sensitive.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Chair votes aye. Number 3, items to be removed from fixed assets. Justification explanation time sensitive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
What makes this time sensitive? I'm just curious.
Any discussion? No.
That one-
Sandy?
Oh, I think that was mine.
I'm just curious. I'm not.
Well, we're trying to close the fixed asset system out for the fiscal year, and we completed 2 more schools. Yes.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor vote aye. Chair votes aye. Number 4, agreement with First Advantage to provide background checks through the Raptor program. Justification explanation time sensitive.
So moved.
Second.
So that,
If,
Mr. Douglas?
if the chair would allow, the First Advantage contract is the background check system that works in concert with Raptor for visitors who come onto school campuses. And like the Raptor contract, First Advantage submitted a requested contract. I do have some changes I would like to make on there. So as the board did with the Raptor contract, I would request you give a similar permission for me to deal with First Advantage in their contract. There are maybe 3 paragraphs that need some tweaking, but I recognize there is a time-sensitive issue associated with this, and so we'll work expeditiously with the First Advantage representatives. I'm not sure if there are any here now, but this is something that can be wrapped up in a couple of days.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'd like to rescind my motion.
Oh, sorry.
I rescind my second.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You want to go ahead?
And I make a motion to approve the First Advantage agreement with the said changes from the board attorney.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, that takes us out of emergency session. And old business, having none, we'll move to new business. Number 1, a consensus to advertise updates to policies number 1129, number 3129, number 4129, number 6110, number 6550, number 7310, number 7450, number 8500, as presented in a Neola special update.
Advertise?
Advertise.
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 Advertise. All right, number 2, consensus to advertise new policy.
Oh, wait.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Number 2?
Quick comment. I think I looked at number 8500. I read through these earlier. And number 85, Mark Model, president of PFT and teacher at Black High School. Number 8500, it seemed like some of the changes that were read were fragmentary, and I think that fragment sentences, they weren't complete sentences. I think Ms. Crawford would agree with me that there were just a couple little, I'm not sure, it was a partial sentence, didn't even have a punctuation or any kind of a exclamation point or a period or anything at the end. There were, I'm not sure what it was trying to say, but maybe
Wording
some
was
proofing would be in order for, on that one at least, yeah.
Okay.
So, just,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Do we want to, everybody rescind or the
No, we just,
declaration?
no, we can advertise it and make changes on the
Yeah,
day we.
and this is a final adoption, so.
All right. Consensus to advertise policies number 6111, number 6112, number 6114, number 6116, number 6325 as presented in a Neola special update.
Advertise.
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 All right. Reports, excuse me, consensus to set board meetings.
Budget.
Budget meeting.
Budget meetings, okay.
I'll come up and speak briefly on this.
All right.
Because we have started the TRIM process, which is the
Truth and
Florida
Millage.
Truth and Millage, and there's 3 budget meetings that we have to have. And the TRIM timetable tells us exactly when those can be held. July 1st was day 1 of the TRIM calendar. That's when the property appraiser did certify to the school district our the value of our taxable property, the taxable value of the school district's jurisdiction. Within by day 24, we have to have our first hearing, our first meeting, and all that meeting usually amounts to is you all giving me permission to advertise in the paper
Right.
that we're going to have our first
last
public
year.
hearing, and it's like a 1 page of the budget. Now, our fiscal year end, we'll have our last run of bills on the 14th, and the last day, like I said, that we can have this meeting is July the 24th, which is a Sunday. Our last working day is the 24th, so I would like to have a meeting on the 24th. That'll give me 1 week's time to get
I'm sorry,
as
the
much of the budget.
21st?
No, the 21st, I'm sorry.
That's
That'll give me
July?
1 week's time to get that ready, yes.
July 21st.
Any time whatsoever. That one does not have to be after 5. It's the only one that the board can set whatever time they want to meet. It can be a 5-minute meeting, it can be a 2-hour meeting if y'all want to discuss the budget in great detail, or if you want to. At times, I've walked in the door and y'all said advertise, and that's all you said. You know, a 5-minute meeting, it doesn't, I can be, have as much available for you that day as you'd like, but that is, we do have to get permission to put it in the paper, and then once it's in the paper, once we get permission, it has to be advertised in the paper. The last possible day by TRIM is July 29th, and that is a Friday. And so we'd like to get permission to advertise, give it to the paper. It'll take them a few days, then get it in the paper, and then
So that one's July 2nd, August 2nd?
that'll be the first public hearing that I will advertise in the paper once you give me permission to. And the last day that could possibly be done is August 4th. So it works out for us that we already have a board meeting on August the 2nd at 3:30. This public hearing has to be after 5. So I would suggest at 5:05, like we always do. If the board meeting's not finished, we can recess the regular board meeting, go into the public hearing, and then go back.
Okay.
Or if we're done, you might have a few minutes break before we go into the first public hearing. And at that public hearing, we'll go into much more detail about the budget. There'll be a lot more documents available. At that time, you can look at that budget. You can make changes to it. If you've got things that you want done, like these graduation coaches, if they're not particularly in that budget, you can tell me to make changes, and we'll make changes. But we have to have something that's advertised in the paper on what we plan to do within just a few days, and then you can make changes to it come August 2nd if you need to.
Thank you, Rhonda.
And then we do have to establish one more meeting, and that is the second public hearing, and that's when you all adopt the final
13th.
budget. And that, by TRIM guidelines, can only be September the 3rd to the 18th. That's when we're locked into. And
13th.
13th of September is what you have.
that's what I would like to have, and they have already contacted me from the property appraiser's office, and the school districts have the first choice at public hearings, so everybody else has to wait on us. I did choose September the 13th. I think at one time, we had a board meeting scheduled for that day, and then y'all canceled it and changed it to August 30th. No, you had one for the 6th, which I could have done it on the 6th, but that one was canceled, and you added it to the 30th, but we can't do it on the 30th because it doesn't meet TRIM guidelines.
That's at 5 o'clock?
So it would have to be it has to be after 5, anytime after 5. So I would say 5:05 if we can do it that day. And always remember, I've got to have at least 3 people here for all 3 of those meetings, so.
Rhonda, can we go ahead and say that, set the time for the one on the 21st of July?
Yes, ma'am, I would
Is
appreciate it if you
3:30
would.
okay with everybody?
Fine with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we will be July the 21st at 3:30 to get permission to advertise the budget. August the 2nd at 5:05 will be our first public hearing of the budget. And September the 13th at 5:05 will be our final public hearing on the budget.
And if you were wanting to do more descriptive, which one of those would be the most sensible? The first one in August?
I would think so.
Okay.
That'll give us time to change it. If you
Okay.
want a workshop on the budget, we can do a workshop. You all tell me when you're available and what you want.
I'm just
And I'll make sure
concerned
it's
about
available.
the dwindling,
Revenues are
Fund
definitely
balance.
not keeping up with our expenditures. That's been going on for years. You know, we need to run the most effective district that we can with the limited dollars that we have. We've been strapped financially, and it's getting worse, but we have been one of the districts that's been managed to keep everything in the black and stay above that, that reserve that we have to have. The mentality is, I'd like to say, yes, we can do whatever it is you want to do, but we might have to look at, if we do agree to do something
Something
new,
else wouldn't.
what has to be cut. We can do an examination of the vendors that we have to see if all the programs we have, if we're getting the best bang for our buck, and if we're not, it might be something we want to look at. You know, again, we're at 82 to 85% of our budget is salary and benefits, and it seems like we need everybody that we have, you know. We are a poor county, and, you know, the schools need the resources, and that's where we're most heavily funded, is in the resources at the school level, so.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to do a workshop if you want something in addition to these, or I'd be happy to go into great detail at the first public hearing and/or the second, whatever the board's pleasure.
I miss the workshop when we used to sit around a table and look at each other. This is so formal, it's not easy to.
Be happy to do whatever you want to do.
Well,
Well, I
yeah,
don't
you've
like a
always
workshop,
done
but I
that.
do. You have to have them.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep, and I'm fine with that.
So we should schedule one before August 2nd, right?
August 21st? Oh, no, August 2nd. Okay, I see what you're saying, yeah. Suits me. We could
What
have
would
one
be-
on Thursday.
I'm here,
before
I've got
the-
no vacation
before
days
that
scheduled,
budget
nothing
meeting.
scheduled, so
Why don't we
whatever,
make the-
whatever y'all can,
21 meeting.
Yeah, a workshop and then the
workshop
meeting.
/ meeting
July
that we will
21st.
agree to all we're doing is agreeing to advertise
Right.
on the 21st.
And then we could have
So
the
we can make
workshop
that
that
into a
day,
workshop
same day.
if that's
So
okay.
should we move it to 2 o'clock then, say the workshop?
You have everything that, I mean, the 21st is really pushing you.
it's pushing me, but.
Well, no, then we'll.
No, it's fine. This is the week of the year that I know I work till 1 or 2 o'clock every morning. It's fact of life. I do it. It's only 1 week a year. I've got plenty of time for the rest of it, but what happens is that we can't close out until July 14th, and then I really start going hard and heavy on the budget. I can get a workshop in. It's not a problem. I promise you that,
Look
so.
forward to it.
Okay.
So we're gonna change it to 2?
Is that all right with you, Jane?
Oh, yeah.
July.
So a
that way-
workshop at 2, and then after the workshop, we'll make it, I know we can't vote at a workshop, so then we'll,
We'll have to do that. We'll have to have a workshop, then, stop the workshop and start a meeting.
It's usually an hour.
so you want an hour workshop? You want me to try to time it for an hour?
Permission to advertise, okay.
Okay, 2 o'clock workshop, 3 o'clock board meeting, is that
3:30.
3:30?
Because
Yes.
usually that workshop's
And
about
that'll
an
give us
hour.
time to go to the
Yeah,
bathroom
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Okay. We can do it.
Okay,
All right, I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, wow. Took me off task here a minute. Let me get back. Reports by board members. We'll start with Ms. Crawford.
I have nothing to report, except that I am a natural-born scallop slayer, and I found out last week.
Well, you are that.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
You want to show us some pictures?
Clean.
I can.
Clean.
No, I don't think you better do that. Ms. Cummings.
Gosh. Oh, I know. Brownie Pierce is starting a community garden. I've been involved with that, and I'm real excited that the kids will learn about growing and eating food. And so That's a fun thing, and I don't know, there's lots of fun summer activities, so enjoy your summer. And teachers, thanks for all your dedication to being at those workshops.
Brother Wright?
Believe it or not, it's about time to start looking forward to high school football. I'm just, all of us who are interested, it's coming fast, so get ready, and I'm excited. So there you go.
I've already got my outfits.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Outfits.
Kathy has nothing. I'll just briefly hit on the fact that I was real pleased to have the discussion today about graduation coaches. I think we need to find a way to get the resources to the school, if that means the board trying to work with the superintendent to put a freeze on some hiring or something and move people around if necessary. But principals are going to have the help, and I see the instructional division taking some bold moves in this initiative with Mr. Green, and I'm real pleased to see that. So, saying that, Mr. Douglas, your turn.
Okay, so first is Edge, and they are coming along with the corrective action plan. They've made significant strides on two of the main issues, which is the mortgage and their contract with New Tech. Both those are being addressed and are coming to a resolution in a timely fashion, so that is good. Another issue, however, is the recent school grade of F. And according to Florida Statute 1002.33, if they get a grade of F, if a charter school receives a grade of F, they shall appear before the sponsor
Us.
to present information concerning each contract component having noted deficiencies. The director and a representative of the governing board shall submit to the sponsor for approval a school improvement plan to raise student performance. And there are other steps along the way. So with the board chairman's permission, I would request a letter to be sent to the director asking them to appear to present a corrective plan for
The next board meeting.
that matter.
Will you write the letter, or do you want me to write the letter?
Either is fine. I don't mind writing it.
If you'll write it, I'd be happy.
Okay, all right.
So to appear at our next board meeting before the next school year starts, right?
Yes,
Does
as
it
soon as
have to
possible.
be before?
Our next
They did
meeting's
this
August.
last year, didn't they have to do this last
Oh,
year?
so it's after the school year starts.
School year starts.
The year
Oh, the
before
teachers will
last
be
year.
back.
And the year before that, we didn't make Putnam Academy of Arts and Science come before us. Before us, I think they were on the consent agenda.
That's right. I think Mr. Hood has a sample of the letter that was sent here before last.
Right, Danny Hood would have the samples.
Superintendent, I think.
And then there's some other requirements and obligations of the board that we can address at that point in time. But it's something that the Florida statute takes very seriously when a charter school receives a grade of a D or F and multiple of those low grades in consecutive years or within a 2-year period. And it's a systematic process that we follow, but we're on top of it. I've spoken with Danny Hood. Adam Emerson at the Department of Education is in the mix as well, so I will keep you informed as soon as I hear any new information. Speaking of Adam Emerson, he has been helping us with the 4-day per week schedule with Edge. And there's nothing in the Florida statute or the Department of Education rule that says they are prohibited from having that type of a schedule. And I just received an email from Mr. Emerson, I forwarded you, the board members, that pretty much says they meet the hour requirements, but there is no official blessing coming from DOE or the CFO at DOE. And it's really going to be up to the auditor when the auditor comes in, and at that point we will know if they receive full FTE. We have received verbal confirmation from Edge that if they do not receive full FTE, then they will go back to a 5-day per week schedule. The reason that that matters to you is because you're the sponsor, and we, as the sponsor, have to be concerned about their financial condition. And if the 4-day-a-week schedule negatively affects their ability to attract students and to keep their enrollment numbers up, then they are at risk for being liquid. And if the board or you as a sponsor have concerns about that, then we need to talk more. And obviously this is a time of year where they are getting prepared for August and the start of a new school year. But I just submit that to you in case you have additional questions for the director, and they may be available to speak more on that topic when they come to the next board meeting. Okay. The next item was the Putnam County Department of Public Works requested in a letter from James Cuneo the board to entertain an idea of giving right-of-way easement rights to them for a Cricket Avenue road widening project. I have spoken with the county and they are tabling that for now because they may redesign the road and not need our involvement in that. And finally, the Campbell Building, we are still in negotiation discussions with the prospective purchaser, and those are going well. And there may be an additional presentation from the prospective purchaser next board meeting. So hopefully we'll have some good news from that.
And it's being advertised though
Correct. And
for sale?
Correct. And meanwhile, we have other folks who are looking too. So there's not just one prospective purchaser. Anybody who is interested in the Campbell Building can contact us, and we'll be happy to show them the building and entertain other offers as well. So that is everything as
You
it
had a
stands now.
lot this time.
Madam Superintendent?
Okay, I have just two things, but I have to do both of these. First of all, the Superintendents Association, the superintendents, all 67, got together and there was a discussion about the release of this year's grades. And once they came out, we also had information that we felt like we should share with our boards and with the public, because it's a difficult thing to understand. So I'm going to now tell you what all superintendents are sharing with their boards. There are several reasons that school grades have dropped this year. Florida has increased education standards and has a new assessment to measure these new standards. In addition, there is a new and more difficult school grading system. They keep raising the bar on everything, just so you all know. We've gone from FCAT to FCAT 2.0 to now the FSA test. The standards were Sunshine State Standards, New Generation Sunshine State Standards, then Common Core, and now we've done away with Common Core and we have Florida State Standards. So everything keeps changing, and then of course it continues to get harder. So this is the first year the new grading system is in place under the new assessment known as FSA, Florida Standards Assessment. These school grades are the first set of grades that can measure learning gains. Learning gains are how much a student progressed or grew under the new standards as measured by the Florida Standards Assessment, otherwise known as FSA. Last year's grades for 2014-15 were the first grades issued under the new assessment. However, they did not measure learning gains or student growth. It is a new test, and the results could not be compared to anything because it was the first year of the test. This year, however, we have 2 years now of results, and student growth can be measured for the first time. The new grades incorporate learning gains or student achievement. These new grades represent a higher benchmark for students, teachers, and schools. So, for example, in the past, if a student was proficient, or, in other words, at level 3 1 year, and maintained that level the next year, then the student achieved a learning gain for the school grade purposes, right? Which makes sense, because from 1 year to the next, the amount of information you learn increases, and the amount of difficulty increases. So that made sense. But this is no longer the case. In order for the school to receive credit for school grade purposes, the student must improve even when he or she is already considered proficient or on grade level. They still have to improve. Now, this is new. So under the old law and rule from the state, a struggling student who is at level 1 or 2, that's considered struggling, could make a learning gain every year from grade 3 to grade 10, even though he or she never reached level 3. Under the old law and rule, students performing at level 3 or 4 could make a learning gain by maintaining a level 3 or 4 the next year, even if the student had moved backward in the level. Because again, you increased a grade level, so what you were learning increased and the difficulty increased. But now they're saying, not going to do that anymore. So the DOE did decide, the Department of Education, the legislature as well, decided that as a result, those previous provisions, it was difficult for parents, students, and the public to understand what improvements were being made and whether students were ready for the next grade level. Yeah, because now it's clear as Rice Creek, right, Mr. Buckles? Under the new law and rule, students must show they are on track to reach grade level achievement, which is level 3, and they must progress beyond that. It is no longer enough for a student to maintain a level 3 or 4. Now, in order to demonstrate a learning gain, the score earned by the student who stays within a level 3 or 4 must be higher than it was the year before. So the points they earn to get to level 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 for last year, this year, in order to earn learning gains, their points in that level 3 had to go up. Even if they stayed in level 3 or stayed in level 4, their points had to go up. So, from the examples that I've just given you, it's easy to see that the way school grades are calculated has changed and are far more rigorous than before. So it is more difficult for schools and school districts to receive credit for student learning gains starting this year. So we have been in transition to this new, more rigorous standards and new assessments. And in addition, most of the Florida Standards Assessment is now a computer-based test. Florida has raised the bar. We expected a dip in school grades this year because of this. Regardless of the grade your schools received, superintendents across this state stand firmly behind the hard work of their students, teachers, and administrators. And with that being said, let me say to you what our grades were this year and kind of put it in perspective, keeping in mind it was harder for them to earn their grade this year because of the learning gains requirement. Okay? So, Melrose Elementary School and QI Roberts Junior Senior High School maintained their grade of A. 4 schools maintained their grade of C. The CL Overturf Junior 6th Grade Center, James A. Long Elementary, Browning Pierce Elementary, and Aquilla Elementary. Middleton Burney Elementary and Kelly Smith Elementary improved a letter grade from D to C. Mellon Elementary and Mosley Elementary improved 1 grade from an F to a D. So we had a lot of improvement in a year where everything was more difficult to earn by our students and our schools. So I want to make that very clear. 2 of our schools, Crescent City High School and Miller Intermediate School, now Miller Middle School in Crescent City, maintain a grade of D. So considering it was harder to earn your points, the fact that they did not fall to an F but maintain their D says a lot for what those teachers did this year at their schools. 5 of our schools, however, dropped 1 grade. 4 dropped from a grade of C to a D. Interlochen High School, Price Middle School, Interlochen Elementary School, and Palatka High School. So again, keeping in mind it was harder to earn your grade, and superintendents across the state expected grades to drop, but considering that, the majority of our schools still did as well or better. Those 4 schools did drop from a C to a D, and Jenkins Middle School dropped from a D to an F. Now, also our charter schools, Children's Reading Center dropped from a B to a C. Putnam Academy of Arts and Sciences dropped from a C to a D, and Edge dropped from a D to an F. So they have been F, D, F the last 3 years. So as you heard from the attorney, he'll be working on that and bringing that back to you. It was harder to earn the grades. It was harder for the students this year because of the new assessment and the new grading system. So I wanted to make that perfectly clear to everybody so that you would not be confused on this issue. Every time we feel like we've moved forward, they raise the bar. It's kind of like doing a high jump, and you started out at 3 feet, and then they went to 6 feet, and then went to 9 feet, and they didn't give you time to practice and adjust. So considering that, we've done exceptionally well, and our school district, Putnam County Schools, is a C. We have maintained our C because of the growth that did happen in the majority of our schools. So if you would like that in writing or a recording of that to put you to sleep at night, you just let me know and I'll provide it. I did want to make all of that perfectly clear in a meeting where it's recorded and where it was available to the public. The other issue that I have is very brief, I hope. We need from you a definition of volunteer as we move forward with Raptor, and we are saving money, unfortunately, from communities and schools. Due to the Jessica Lunsford Act, we do have to background check and do screenings on volunteers. In order to do this, we need your help in determining what constitutes a volunteer who will need a full background check versus just the nationwide sexual offender check. And Mr. Weaver, if you would come up as our dual director of student services and school safety and security, these are issues that we have to discuss. He has put together, he's done a lot of work on this, and he's put together some examples for you so that hopefully you can just say, yes, that's what we want.
Another issue also is the time frame as far as how often you would like volunteers screened with the nationwide background check.
No statute relevant to this.
And it is, we even asked in a go-to-meeting conference call that we had with Raptor the other day with the implementation manager trying to nail it down because we couldn't find anything that defined specifically volunteer or timeframes or levels of checks or anything. And her response was basically, it's all over the board. So she's heard of them from anywhere, districts doing it from every school year to upwards to 5 years to, she gave examples of some that just let people come in and sign in and volunteer that way, so.
And my concern, of course, is for our student safety. And I don't want to get overboard, but I want us to be able to ensure student safety as much as possible. I mean, you can't plan for every possibility, but I think what Mr. Weaver has come up with will serve you well, but we need to run it by you and make sure that's what you want, or find out if you'd like us to change it to something else. So, Mr. Weaver, if you'll proceed.
The two packets you have, one is just a proposed policy that, you know, based on the direction you give, we'll work with Neola and Mrs. Cormany and I will get with them and work with them on that. But on the policy, really, if you'll look at just the front page, the underlined sections were the areas we really needed your direction in. And then with the manual that was handed out also, the program manual on pages 7 at the very bottom and the top of page 8 is really the same exact information, just in 2 different forms, 2 different formats. Again, we just need your input as to what constitutes a full-fledged volunteer. I will be glad to give you my thoughts on it. Doesn't mean you will agree, but
Thank you, Mr.
anyone that works with a student in an unsupervised manner outside of the sight and sound of a staff member, in my opinion, needs to be fully screened.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's on a field trip, whether it's at school, whether it's at a athletic event, if they are on their own supervising our students without a staff member present, working with our students without a staff member present, they need to be background screened. And then my second major area I feel that they need is a full screening, is whether they're supervising just their child or working as a chaperone with other children if it's an overnight trip.
Yeah.
That they would need to be screened. Now, the people that come in and work with teachers in the classroom with the teacher right there present, we've discussed with Raptor, we can screen them through the visitor module, which would not do the full nationwide background screening, but it does do the nationwide offender screening. And that's basically what Communities in Schools was doing for our lower level anyway, except I believe they were only doing the Florida offender screening. Raptor would actually do a nationwide offender screening.
Travis, let me ask you a couple questions. So all athletic coaches would have to be screened. That's
They are screened
They are screened.
through staff services. if
Yeah,
I'm not
so they're all
mistaken.
screened.
Right.
Okay.
And contractors and vendors have to be screened.
That come on and off our campuses.
Yeah, those are contractors and vendors. We're talking about
The
just
ones for-
unpaid volunteers on this one.
We have some coaches that are unpaid. So are they considered
I believe
volunteers?
they still, no, I believe they still have to go through HR. Is that correct? Yes.
Even if they're unpaid, they still have to go through the full screening. Okay.
Yeah, I believe, because
And
don't they,
interns?
they have to have
Question about interns.
a training of some sort through the state to do that, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Okay, let me ask this question. When they do the screening, obviously it will pick up on any offenses that have been, tried, convicted, yada, yada, yada. Does it pick up on allegations? Does it pick up on
No, these would be
anything like that?
convictions.
No. So these are just convictions?
Yes.
I'd like to, I'd like to see it be very restrictive like Mr. Weaver's talking and still have a catch-all if the board attorney could do it, saying, and anyone else the principal deems or district deems appropriate to be screened.
If you would, that actually is kind of built in there, the last sentence of the first paragraph on your policy, it's underlined. School administrators may also require the volunteer background screening for any activities deemed appropriate.
Yeah.
So,
And then the next sentence, though, we're saying that's only good for 1 year.
well, this is just proposed. We're trying to get your input on that. We need your input on the time frame and the definition of who needs the full background screening.
Time frame from the time they apply to time they're
How
approved?
long their
How
screening
often?
is good for.
Okay,
Right,
how
how
long
often
is
do
their
we have to
clearance good
recheck?
for?
How do we do it now? Is it every year?
It was done every year.
Yeah.
And I would ask that would be 3 years, because I've looked at other districts, and like I said, I asked the lady, I was on that call with him and Raptor. Texas is every year, Florida is anywhere from 3 to 5 to once a time. It's a lot of money, it's gonna add up, and I feel that 3 years, would be very
Yeah.
sufficient.
With that being said, if a volunteer comes in to a school and they have a full-fledged background that's already been done, and let's say it's been a year since it's happened, every time they sign in through the Raptor system, they're still automatically being checked against the nationwide offender
And that's
So-
free.
Every time they
Yeah.
sign in.
every time they sign in.
It's an instant.
So
The
let-
nationwide offender, sexual offender.
That's
Right.
kind of what I figured, that's what I thought
So
we
that
did.
would catch someone who had a background check and we waited 3 years, but if they got in trouble during that 3 years,
It would
that
check.
would catch them.
Sexual
Sexual
week.
offender, yes,
Yeah.
but not a full-fledged criminal background check. It would not catch
Bank robber's
a,
not necessarily a threat.
yeah,
That was a joke.
it wouldn't catch somebody
He said
that
the
wrote
same
bad
I said the
checks.
same thing though to Nikki a little while ago.
Yeah, so I
not
just,
really careful.
again, and
Catch 'em at committed
Raptor
robbery.
has a system that they would say, okay, your time is up, your 3 years of volunteer expired, time for another background check, and then we would pay that. But they do, as a guest, as a supervised volunteer, they still get the sexual offender background check. So that's why I feel comfortable changing that to 3 years.
Yeah.
So it would say approved volunteer applications are good for 3 years.
We should have probably had this on the agenda because it's kind of late in the meeting and we got a lot of,
I'm not sure we can vote on that.
no, but we're gonna have to have more dialogue.
Yeah, we have to advertise it. This is just to advertise.
Yeah, this is a policy, we'll end up having to go through the entire process. We just, being Raptor's going to be implemented at the beginning of school, we
We're
want to have
trying to
some type
move-
of
yes.
procedure
We're
established.
trying to fast
Up
track
front.
this because they're going to be here Thursday and we're going to start moving forward with this. We want it implemented with school starting, so that's,
That's why we have Travis to make sure we're okay.
and we just talked to Raptor the other day and they were, talking about scheduling everything, and we said we need it sooner rather than later, and when they said that they could be here Thursday, that's when we knew we had to bring this to you today, so. But yes, it'll have to go through the whole
So
policy
could it verbally
process.
be that could we verbally say that 3 years is acceptable?
That's all we're looking for is just your individual input on the
Just
time
guidance.
frame. Yeah, your
Yeah,
time
three-
frames,
I mean,
thumbs up, I'm good.
I'm with that 3 years.
3 years.
That's
3
fine.
years instead of every year.
And does everyone
To do
feel
the
okay?
full background
well, every
check.
time somebody signs in, it's gonna check them
Right.
anyway, doesn't it?
Well, it's gonna check them on the sexual offender, not a
Yeah, but those
full-fledged
are the
criminal
ones that we're
background.
worried about.
Right.
The number one.
And as
issue.
far as
worried
the
about shop.
definitions of the unsupervised volunteers, you feel comfortable with that?
Yep.
Well, I-
Anybody on an overnight trip, anyone that's gonna be out of
Absolutely.
sight and
Yes.
sound?
And I wasn't
Absolutely.
prepared to go into this much detail, but
Thank
now
you.
I'm waking up and I can go on and on about it.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
I would, one
I
thing I
know he
left
was
out.
nodding off.
One thing I left out that I'm gonna do after listening to the discussion on the rental of the warehouse, I'm gonna, ask that Ms. Douglas try to rescind my FSBA membership, and I go with the FCSBM, which is it would be $1,900 less a year for me to be a member of that association. It would accomplish everything that I need to do, and,
What is he talking about?
I don't know if you haven't read
FSBA,
your
yeah.
emails, but a lot of board
Well, I
members
did read my
are
emails.
going
I
to
ain't-
that. But instead of being a member of FSBA, I can go with this other organization, and it'll be a savings to the district, and, that's,
That bill has not been paid, you did approve that bill, but because it's for the 16-17 school year.
I'm staying where I am.
won't
They've
turn that
helped
in
me too
till
much.
July, So
I don't want mine.
if we prorate it per member, it comes out to about 5,000 per member to FSBA.
5,000
It's, yes, ma'am,
for each of us?
All of Indian River,
Yeah.
all of Indian
But
River County.
when we're not utilizing them the way we need to, too.
Well, we still pay. You can still go to their conferences, just pay them more.
and you pay a non-member fee. to
Yeah.
go. Yes.
5,000?
Anyway, I'm requesting.
Well, when did I didn't
Can we
see
bring that
email.
up again?
Yeah, we can bring that up.
Look at your email.
I look at my email all the time, Mr. Buckles.
No, I just
don't
was,
know when
I didn't
that
realize
came.
it was that much per member.
It's the same group, is it not?
It's that you did your ethics training.
Right?
I didn't get this.
Yes.
When you
Sorry.
went through your ethics training.
Yes.
You were able to, I believe that's the same group.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did our online
Yeah, I
ethics
get
training
that.
through
You could
them.
save, actually, that'd be $10,000 you could save.
I guess you never called them when you were superintendent, because I know
No.
we have.
No.
We use FSBA all
That's
the
been,
time.
it's been a long time ago, and they didn't have it, to my knowledge, back then, but.
Have what?
FSBA, yeah,
No,
they did.
I'm talking about FSBA.
I'm talking about the other organization.
I'm talking about the one you want to get, you don't want to be
I
a
don't need
member of.
to, yeah, I'm good. I'll be a member of this other organization, and then we'll find out from them what information they've got, and I can come back and report to you.
But the district uses FSBA,
Yes,
that's what I'm
but I
trying to
can,
say.
I can opt out as a single board member.
If we each opt that out, then the district can't use them.
We can, we just
We
pay
just
a
pay a non-member
non-member,
fee.
like if we want to.
That's
just to go to the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Then you
don't,
don't get to call them up or their legal
don't-
department or
I don't
anything
need
else we
to-
do all the
I don't need
time.
to go to dinner at the motel. so
Well,
I-
that's,
I'm
but
good.
we,
Dinner at the motel, you
I
don't need to be educated.
I just want to be, I just want.
No, because he knows it all.
knows
No, I didn't say that.
You tell me that all the time.
That you know it all?
No, that you know it all.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
what's up,
I'm just
baby?
telling you, I didn't mean to start a firestorm, but I will be pursuing that instead of being, over the FSBA.
My birthday present.
Okay. Gosh,
All right.
you guys can go, I don't care. Tell me
You
what
got to
happened.
adjourn the meeting.
Okay,
go.
nothing else here, meeting's over, thanks.
this is all expensive.
That'll cut you.